Hey guys, Christina here. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend it here with me. So in my last video, I had my daughter as a special guest. So I had two of my daughters as special guests. The first one was Jasmine. She's my middle daughter, and she's the inspiration to this video today. She has been asthmatic since she was 6 months old, and I wanted to make a video to share with other parents that may have asthmatic children and give you guys some tips and some things that I've learned throughout the years to help manage her asthma. So like I said, she started when she was about 6 months old. She caught a cold and it quickly turned into something more serious. And she had her first flare up. We took her to the hospital because it just didn't seem like she was improving. They checked her oxygen and it wasn't where it should be. So she actually was admitted into the hospital, and that was our first week-long stay at the hospital. They gave her some breathing treatments and then she started to improve. From there on, it just became like this continuous thing where she would get a little cold and then it would escalate and she would need to either be admitted or get on some steroids to help open up her lungs. And when they're very little like that, they don't want to diagnose them as asthmatic, so they just called it reactive lung disease. We even had one time where we took her to an urgent care and they actually sent her through the ambulance to the hospital, over to the pediatric hospital, and that was a pretty scary experience. But the EMTs were so great. I remember they put her in this little car seat that they have in the ambulances, which I didn't know they had those, and they gave her a little stuffed animal. And then at the hospital, she had such great nurses and respiratory therapists, and they gave her a little book and this little Lion King stuffed animal that we still have to this day. As she's gotten a little older, she's 8 now, and her asthma flare-ups have gotten a lot better. They have been a little easier to manage, and then with all the knowledge that we've learned, we've been able to kind of stay on top of things, and we haven't had to have any more hospital stays since she was about 2 years old. Everything we've been able to manage at home. We have all the tools that we need now. So the first tool that's really important and that I want to make sure everybody has, you and your child's doctor need to come up with an action plan. And so the action plan is going to be a sheet of paper, and you're going to have on there, well, the one that we had, it was 3 different colors. It was green, yellow, and red. And so the green is, what you should be doing on a good day. So when she was younger and her asthma was a little worse, she did have to be on a daily medication. So it was a little tube of liquid that we would put in her nebulizer, which the nebulizer, it vaporizes everything. So she'll have the big machine, it'll have this tubing going into a mask. You put the liquid in the little mask, in the little cup underneath the mask, and then it turns into vapor, and they breathe that in. She was on that twice a day, every day, for about a year. I can't really remember how long she had that daily medication, but she was on that for some time. For the green part of the action plan, it said this is the maintenance medication that she needs to be having every day. On the yellow portion, it would give you advice on if she's having a little bit of symptoms, what you should be doing. Maybe doing the inhaler or the nebulizer every 4 to 6 hours to kind of keep that under control. And then on the red part, it would say if she was just very exasperated and she was having a really bad flare up, they need to be given their breathing treatments, back to back, and then take them to the hospital or take them to their doctor's office. And everybody's is going to be a little bit different because some children have, different requirements. Some have worse symptoms. Some are quickly onset. Some are going to be onset a little bit slower. You want to make sure that you have this action plan in place and that you have a copy for everybody that's going to be taking care of your child. So if they go to daycare, you want to make sure that the daycare has this action plan. If they're in school, you want to make sure that the school nurse has this action plan, or anybody that's babysitting this child. If your child is old enough, you want to make sure that they also understand what the steps are and what they need to do. You want them to feel empowered over their health as well. Also, you want to make sure that you provide whoever is going to be taking care of your child with whatever tools that they need. So if you have the action plan and it says that they may need their inhaler, you want to make sure that you have an inhaler there with them in case they need it. Jasmine has an inhaler at home and she has an inhaler at school also, and she has had to have the nurse give her, an inhaler throughout the day when she's had flare-ups before. One thing I had seen one time in a Facebook group that I'm in for parents of asthmatic children is that someone had put an action plan together, and they made it super pretty, but it was just very busy. They had all kinds of decorations and stuff on it. I understand that some people like to add a little spice to things. You just want to keep it clear and make sure that what the information that's on there is understood. It does not need to be super pretty. You want to make sure that the medication that your child needs is given to them as prescribed. Like I said, Jasmine was on a maintenance medication for some time, and it was really hard for us to give her medicine every day, twice a day. I know that it's something that was helping her, but sometimes it's just so hard to just constantly give your child something and you don't know what the long-term side effects are. So there were times that we were like, maybe we could just go a week or so without giving it to her, so her body gets a little break from this. But then we would have a flare-up. So when your child needs it, you just have to give it to them as prescribed. I know we don't know what the long-term side effects are, especially when child is so small, but not being able to breathe is a lot harder. And so you just really want to make sure that this is something that you're keeping under control, because think about, I mean, you don't even think about when you're breathing, and imagine not being able to breathe properly. I mean, she would just be so tired and so weak because her body was struggling. Something else that I think is on the boxes of the medication now, but we were never told, even with all of her stays at the hospital, no one ever told us, and it may seem like common knowledge to others, but you just want to make sure that you brush their teeth after every breathing treatment, or at least rinse their mouth out with water. Sometimes she would be so sick, and then after her breathing treatment, she would be able to finally rest and fall asleep, and wouldn't want to wake her up to brush her teeth. But that does have consequences. Medication that they're receiving from the nebulizer and from the inhaler, it does leave a film on their teeth, and it does cause decay. And unfortunately, Jasmine has suffered so much with dental issues. I mean, she has had a cavity in every tooth she's ever had. And I know it's just a combination of things. It's a combination of the nebulizer treatments, the inhalers that she's had, and it's also a combination of her sweet tooth and the fact that her teeth are very, very close together, so it's so hard to floss in between them. So with all of that combined, it's wreaked havoc on her teeth, and she has gone through a lot of dental procedures. So I just want to make sure that you know that when you give your child a breathing treatment, make sure to brush their teeth, even if it's just with a little rag if they're little with some water on it, or have them rinse their mouth out and get some of that off of their teeth. I think it's important to have a nebulizer and also an inhaler. I wouldn't rely just on the inhaler. The nebulizer really gets more into their lungs. The nebulizer really helps to absorb the medication into their body faster and more thoroughly, I think. The inhaler, it is a good rescue device. I really feel like the nebulizer treatments make a bigger difference when she's having a flare-up. When we would go on vacation, we would take her nebulizer with us, you know, in a little bag. You have no issues taking it through the airport. Make sure you have the nebulizer, have the solutions, and have the mask. You could probably find an outlet almost everywhere, but if there is somewhere that you can't plug in the nebulizer and give them the treatment, definitely make sure that you have an inhaler everywhere that you go. They have a little bag, preferably personalized, with their inhaler and their chamber, because you never know when you're gonna need it. And it's so hard when they start those coughing fits and you see them struggling and you just feel helpless. Another thing that's very important is to identify the early signs of a flare-up, and then also to identify what triggers them and then avoid those triggers. So with Jasmine, when she was younger, it was viral induced asthma. So if anybody had a small little cold, she would get it and it would just turn into this big flare up on her. And so she would start with a little runny nose and just feeling a little weak. And then the next day she would start coughing and not being able to catch her breath. And we'd have to start with, you know, the nebulizer treatments. When she was on the maintenance medication, it did help a little bit to kind of slow that onset. but she would still have a flare up and we would still be on nebulizer treatments every 4 to 6 hours for a few days. Also been on steroids a lot throughout her life. Sometimes they just need that oral steroid to kind of help open things up and help that process speed along. The steroids are going to put them in a bad mood, so you are going to have a lot of patience with your child if they're going through this. I mean, their body is not working as it should, they're not feeling good, and then they're on these medications that make their body feel a little crazy. And then also the nebulizer treatments, the albuterol, that also makes their heart race a little bit, so it's going to make them feel a little anxious. So just have a lot of patience with them. Everybody has a different tolerance level, and now it seems like her asthma is more triggered by the environment, more allergies, and so we try to have her on a allergy medication. So I give her the Dimetapp cold and allergy, and that was something that the asthma and allergy specialist suggested to me, especially this time of the year, to give her that every day, and that has helped with how often she's had flare-ups. Another thing that Jasmine kind of goes through when she starts with a flare-up, another thing that Jasmine has gone through is that when she is going through a flare-up, she really can't run or do any kind of exercise because it just becomes really hard for her to catch her breath. And so one thing that she told me one day after school that just broke my heart was that she didn't like recess at school because all her friends were running around and playing and she couldn't. And it just made me so sad because it's hard when you see your child and you see that there's things that they want to do that they physically cannot do. I'm thankful for all the things that she can do, and I just think Jasmine is, one of the strongest people in the world. I mean, she has gone through a lot besides the asthma, and she is always the sweetest, kindest little child. It may keep her down for a little bit, but then when she starts feeling a little better, she's right back at it. So she's strong. It may slow her down, but it does not keep her down. And I just can't wait to see, what the future holds for her, what the future holds for us. And I hope that some of these tips were helpful for you. If you have any other questions about things that may help your asthmatic child, things that you can do to help ease a flare-up, leave it down below. You can send me a message, add me on Instagram. I'll have the link down below. And like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time. Thanks.